Thank you, Devin. According to the CDC, about 64% of U.S. adults reported that they had experienced at least one type of adverse childhood event before the age of 18.
Yes, and here to explain more about this, including how it could impact one's future, is our very own nurse, Christina Paris. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Glad to be here.
Now, what are some adverse childhood experiences? What, perhaps some examples here?
Sure, right, absolutely. So we're kind of talking about nature versus nurture. So nature is our genetics, just our natural, like who we are genetically. And then nurture is, of course, our experiences. And some of us, come from divorced families, maybe have alcoholism, a parent who might have mental illness or depression. You might watch your parents fight. There might be intimate partner violence in the home. All of these things kind of contribute to our experiences as children, which then, move on to how we act, behave, things like that when we're adults.
Yeah. So maybe what are some of the possible long-term consequences of, these experiences? I feel like short-term is kind of obvious, like it impacts you, but like as time goes on, what's it like?
Right. So short-term, you can kind of shut down. I come from a divorced family. My parents were divorced when I was 12. But, had that good support from my family, so it made a huge difference. But over time, there can be an increase in illness. You might have an increased risk of behavioral problems, addiction problems, even health problems like heart disease, depression, and those diabetes, things like that. Because if you think about stressors and that cortisol, and when you're at a high level of cortisol over time, that causes a lot of inflammation and can actually make you sick. We know more and more about that. So when you don't have those positive reinforcements to kind of bring down that cortisol level, it's going to have these negative effects.
So how can we prevent these adverse childhood experiences, or at least, somewhat minimize them?
Right. So I think, one, as adults, if we do see a child who is going through something like that, maybe a neighbor who we see that his parents are divorcing, or maybe there's a lot of yelling or things like that coming from the home, we can always support that child, be there as someone who will listen and talk to them. I think so strengthening our household events. Also, poverty can cause these negative childhood events. If you are starving as a child and you're just not getting the food, it really can negatively affect you, of course, physically, but emotionally as well. So, making sure that we have good programs in our community and that these families are aware of these programs. A lot of public education, bystander approaches, like I said. So when you see something, say something or do something, be there to mentor. We have the Boys and Girls Clubs. Those are great organizations. And just ensuring kids have a good start, making sure our school programs are really up and running and strong, preschool enrichment, and then just teaching kids social and emotional skills, like how to cope with things like that. Good mentoring. Good health care, too, can be very important. Early childhood health care, make sure they get their immunizations, make sure they're getting their well baby checks. And then just a lot of good family services, just really embracing the people in our community.
Yeah, true. Having a good mentor, someone you can lean on in case, like, the events in the household aren't great, that can go a long ways as well.
Absolutely.
And, teachers, coaches, whoever that may be, or a neighbor, like you said.
Right.
It's just, the community stepping up.
Yep, I had great teachers. I mean, my parents were both very supportive too, but I had my grandparents to lean on. I had good teacher support. So those things are really important. Teachers, nurses, we can make a huge difference in the lives of others.
Absolutely. I noticed one point that you had in there I think is really important to bring up, like men and boys as allies. I feel like that's something maybe people don't think of, like that this stuff, happens to boys and men and stuff, and having, people of their own gender that they can turn to.
Absolutely. My husband did a fantastic job of raising our boys, but we always were really good about instilling that if there was another adult that they felt more comfortable talking to about things, then go to them. If there's somebody at the church or, a Sunday school or youth leader, or maybe even a neighbor that they feel really comfortable with, we were very supportive of that. Whatever they they could get to have the
Yeah.
best outcomes we wanted for our children. So.
Well, thanks for so much coming in this morning and talking about this. You know, sometimes it can be a tough topic as well.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, it is. But hopefully we can be there and build better supports for our future.
Absolutely. But thank you so much for coming in today.
Yeah.
And coming up, we have What's